T. It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. It's good to be back on, I'll be honest with you. On today's podcast, we're going to talk a little mental health, things to celebrate from Philippians. Be talking with Ben about that. And also Will Myhand is back, which is enough. That's enough reason to listen to this podcast to hear his greatness. And we'll get to that conversation in just a few minutes after these important messages.
The Adventures of Ben and Travis and the Joy Rider, the second book in our series. It focuses on helping you learn how to find joy in difficult times and to see how people with special needs also have some wonderfully special powers of encouragement. You can pre-order your copy at benandtravis.com/books.
I'm Travis Creasy, the pulpit minister at Riverside Church of Christ campus minister, Riverside Christian Academy in Fayetteville, Tennessee. That's all-pro counselor with 3-Chord Counseling in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and the pulpit minister at Highland Park Church of Christ in Muscle Shoals. Ben Hayes, how are you, buddy?
I am doing well. It is almost the end of the school year. And so all of us, I think, can get a little excited about that. And so last week of school for us, is it last week of school for you guys, Travis?
Wrapping it up, start exams as we're recording. As it comes out, we'll be starting our exams for the week. It'll go through Thursday and then graduation Thursday night. And as I like to say in dodgeball, dunzo.
Dunzo. I like it. And Will's excited that school's almost out as a parent and as a Bible class teacher at Mars Hill.
That is exactly right, which only is going to get crazier because if you're listening, that means I'm 8 days away from meeting my son. So
oh my goodness. Nice.
We are next week is Jet Thomas is going to make his appearance. At least that's C-section day because he's stubborn and will not flip. So
I don't know where he gets that trait, the stubbornness. The question, Will, is will he begin speed training immediately? Because Jet, you got to be fast.
Yeah. If you look in the room behind me, there are planes and everything in his room. So either we're going to be a fighter pilot, something with airplanes.
You can do that too. That's right.
Is that like a military hat hanging up behind you, like the?
Yes, that's actually to show if you're watching the video, that's my dad's hat from the Air Force.
That's cool. So, I want that in my room.
That's a cool wall, man.
Lindsay's, my dad's picture in the Air Force, there's the top right. And then Lindsay's dad was a pilot down around Gulf Shores. He kind of flew for fun. So we didn't even think about any of that. It was just kind of, we liked the name Jet. And then we started going, hey, we got a lot of connections to aviation. So
sweet.
But gonna be good. School's getting out and we're just going to get busier with a newborn and youth ministry.
Well, one thing, guys, that have helped me get through the end of school and really this entire semester is Magic Mind. Magic Mind has been sponsoring this podcast the last couple of months. And man, oh man, like I said, helping me finish strong. It's not spinach, although that might be some in there, but it does help me stay strong to the finish. And fun words. I know we've mentioned this before, like ashwagandha, which is fun to say. It's in there. Let's see, turmeric, that's in there. These are all things I've heard from my wife, by the way, that are really good. And, Whitney knows what she's talking about, so I trust. And then, of course, lion's mane. I'm not sure that you get much cooler than that. Being Freed Hardeman guys, right? Lion's mane, that makes a lot of sense. So that has even been studied for its potential in treating various health conditions, including depression, anxiety, and even Alzheimer's disease, which is kind of wild to think about. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, but we'll take it. And anything to help. Like I said, it's a pick me up. There's no crash. I love that part because I got plenty of crash without any help. And today, boy, it hit hard until I hit my Magic Mind. We got a special code, and that is BAT40, getting 40% off your subscription. And so that's a great deal. So you can go to magicmind.com/BAT40. You can use that code BAT40 to get 40% off your subscription, available only for the first 10 orders. So if you're interested, you best get on it. And just talking about exams, Ben, that's kind of been my message. Hey, you got a great opportunity. You better get on it. And speaking of things to celebrate, every day we believe that God's mercies are new every morning, and that's a cause for celebration. And you've been talking a little bit about that from Philippians. So tell us what you've been doing.
Yeah, just been a couple of opportunities to talk about Philippians chapter 4. Just a great chapter. A lot of people use, the passage in 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me or gives me strength. And it's a great passage, and it shouldn't be overlooked in any way. But it also has probably been taken out of context a time or two, and used for a lot of different things, just a few times. And the main part of it is, I can do all things. I can get through all circumstances through Christ who strengthens me. Because he says, I've learned how to, have a lot and have a little. I've learned how to abound and how to, be abased. Depending on the translation that you read, I've learned, in all situations to be content. And so you kind of start thinking like, what's the contentment from? Like, or how do you get to that point? How can you get to the point where you're content in all areas? I mean, obviously Christ is the one's giving you the strength, but how do you get there? And I think he gives some keys to that in the verses that precede it. And in verse 4 of Philippians 4, he says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. And you guys probably are pretty well aware that Philippians, was written while he was in prison, one of the prison epistles, probably not in the best situation at all. But if every day we can find something to celebrate, rejoice in the Lord. I mean, we got something to celebrate every day, right? I mean, we've got Christ, our life in him, our life in the church, our relationships that we have. But, I kind of just took some practical things away from each of these. And the first one in verse 4 is find something every day to celebrate. So wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that.
We like celebrating, I'll say that much. And just seeing Will's wall there for his son that is on the way makes me in the celebratory mood. Of course, school coming to an end, and we're always looking for something to celebrate, especially me and Haley. We like to celebrate things, and maybe it's just, hey, I had a nice cold Dr. Pepper today, which I haven't had today because I took Magic Mind and I don't need it. So, but to find something every day can initially be difficult.
Yeah.
I think the quote, I think I posted on Facebook today, that gratitude takes effort and resentment is effortless. You got to exercise that muscle, the awareness. And I think Paul speaks to this, and he does in other places, being aware of God in the good, that every good and perfect gift comes from him, being aware of that. So connecting with that.
I think it's interesting. You talk about rejoicing being a catalyst to being content in all things and being able to accomplish. As Dad has gotten a little bit older, because every day he's talking about how ridiculous it is that he's having a grandchild, and he's almost 77. But he keeps coming back to, Will, I'm just so thankful for my health, because he said, I keep seeing the health of a lot of my friends, my peers kind of decline. And it's made it interesting to me. And something I've tried to do is when I notice the needs and the hurts of other people, instead of being focused on myself, I rejoice more. And I know that sounds weird, but it's almost like I see really how blessed that my life is. And it helps me. It's not that I rejoice or that I'm happy that other people are struggling, but it helps kind of put things in perspective. And when things are put in the right perspective, I think I'm a happier person. And so it's almost like when I think about and I focus on just being a Christian, which is seeing others above yourself, it helps me kind of find that gratitude for the life that I'm experiencing in the moment. And so I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive to see what other people need, and it helps me rejoice, but I've become a happier person by being able to see what other people are in need of, because in the season of life that I'm in right now, life is good, and there's not these external things weighing down on our family that maybe other individuals are having to experience. And so in that, it's, I guess that's the whole point of being a Christian, is when you live the Christian life the way you're supposed to, you find happiness and joy, in those moments.
Well, and I think that kind of leads into the second section of Philippians 4, is when he says, then let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord's at hand. Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And I just kind of simplified that. And it kind of goes along with it, maybe very closely to, find something to rejoice in or find something to celebrate every day. The second thing is say thank you every day for something. Find someone to be thankful for every day. And so I might celebrate something, but I also turn around and say thank you to somebody, because I've got a cause to celebrate because of what somebody else has done. Again, he's very specifically saying, tell God you're thankful for the things he's done for you. But also, we've probably got people around us every day that we need to be thankful for, and we need to tell them, because you might not get that chance.
Yeah, gratitude is such a big deal for Christians. And once again, like I said, that's a muscle we exercise. I'm 44 years old, and my default mode is to complain. The sky's not the color blue I want it to be today. And so that's got to be somebody's fault. Not mine, of course, maybe Ben or Will's. But yeah, gratitude, liberty, those are all things that are values, things that an attitude of gratitude takes some will, where there's a will in my hand, there's a way is how I like to say that phrase. But think about Jesus instituting the Lord's Supper. Most of the tables that we have, it says, do this in remembrance. It's very difficult to be grateful if you have a short memory. And we live in such a what have you done for me lately society. But we all know those people that you can do one kind thing for them and you're in forever. It don't matter what happens or what the circumstance. And I think so much of Philippians 4, really the whole book is, with God, the circumstance doesn't dictate to you. It's your response to that circumstance that matters. And over again in scripture, right? Remember, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who blessed those guys despite not deserving it. I'm the God who brought you out of Egypt. Don't forget that. Connect. We see that in Numbers. They're barely out and they forget, we had it. I read today that they referenced Egypt as the land flowing with milk and honey. And it was like, you were slaves. Yeah. But, there's a liberty versus security. There was security in Egypt. There was structure. There was provisions, but it was not liberty that was secure. And so there's an aspect with Paul here who has given up all security for the liberty found in Jesus. And you mentioned he's in prison and he's talking about rejoicing. And that seems to be upside down. Of course, we know that's referenced in the book of Acts as well.
There's something that you both have said that has jogged my memory. Growing up, my mom always said, and Bible class teachers and everybody, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it. But it may have been Travis that said, or somebody that said, if you do have something good to say, make sure that you do say it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in life,
I'm claiming it right there. That's a Travis Creasy quote. Don't remember saying it, but I'm claiming it.
Well, I know that Travis at times has, I've had something going on and I know that there's no way Travis remembered it. So he had to put it in his calendar to go, hey, text Will on this day. And I know that's happened. And I think a lot of times when we do remember good things or there are things that pop up, we just go, oh, that was great. And then we never do anything with it. And so I've really tried to make it a point. I pulled some of the 8th graders today out of my class after everybody left. And I said, hey, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you. Like as an older teacher, whatever, I want you to know that there are good aspects of your life that are noticeable by people my age, and you're influencing us too. And you would have thought, like, some of them walked out and you would have thought that they had gotten like the Willy Wonka golden ticket. And I was just like, are they really that happy that somebody just said, hey, I appreciate you? And I thought, man, there's a lesson. And it's not just 8th graders. I mean, it's me at 35. Lindsay, the other day, I had moved some balloons for her. She walked in the house, gave me a big hug and said, I need you to know how much I appreciate you. And I thought, well, good gracious, man, that feels great. I probably need to be
my ego a little bit. Yeah.
I need to be more complimentary. And so I've really tried to let people know, hey, I see that. Even if it's something so insignificant in your mind, that was good. And it made a difference. And so I remember it, I see it, but I'm not too busy to say it. And I think that helps people,
Well, we've all taught, and we've probably all taught somebody that we thought they're not paying a lick of attention to what I'm saying. And inevitably, at some point in this point of the year, when the school's coming to an end, I'm one of those, I get the annual and the seniors leave a little something. And I'm like, all right, who mentioned me? I'm just going to admit my vanity. Somebody mentioned me. And 9 times out of 10, it's like the least likely person that I thought. They didn't hear a word I said. I've had calls from people 10 years after they've graduated, call me up and go, hey, there was this one time you said this, and it's like, I can't fit my head through the door, especially if it's a good thing that they remembered. But, how often is that the case where this person, they don't care about one thing that I say. I remember being at graduation and one of my students came up to me and said, I didn't always agree with what you said, but you brought it every single day. And once again, I barely got my head out the front door. So it doesn't take much.
Well, the words of affirmation are a big thing. People have talked about them for a long time, about how important those are. And I think, what we don't realize is, I know a lot of times people just say, hey, good job when they come out after a sermon, because I know most of the time it's mediocre. But it still feels good to be told that. And it still feels good for your elders to hear, hey, we appreciate you and appreciate what you do, even if sometimes you might not agree with everything. It helps them. It helps them see you differently. And so find ways to celebrate people, find ways to say thank you to them. And, that especially your kids, your parents, find ways to do that. Third thing he goes into and he says is, finally, whatever's true and honorable, just and pure, lovely, commendable, anything excellent, anything worthy of praise, think about these things or think on these things. And then he adds to that, whatever you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, hopefully some of those things, then practice these things and the God of peace will be with you. So that's twice he's mentioned peace is going to be with you. 1, if you're thankful. 2, if you just focus every day on something good. So celebrate something good every day, say thank you every single day, and focus on good news. I mean, I don't think there's any question as to why it's called good news, right? There's plenty of bad news floating around. But he says, think on the good things, and the gospel's called the good news. So, I think every day we've got to choose to look for the good. We've talked about this probably a few times on here. You find what you look for. I've never noticed certain mushrooms that, some of our friends kind of hunt and look for, and we've gone out hunting for morel mushrooms a few times, and you don't see them normally, and they're hard to see anyway. They're hard to find, but even you can be looking at them and not realize you're looking at them unless you just really know what you're looking for. And, you might buy a car and think nobody else has this car, and then you see it everywhere. You find what you're looking for. So if you're looking for bad, you're going to find the bad. If you're looking for positive, you're going to find the positive. And so every day celebrate something, every day say thank you, and every day try to look for something positive. I had to work real hard this weekend with my air conditioning going out and some other stuff going on. But I kept thinking, because I had this conversation with a few different people over the last couple of days and used this a few times, I kept going, all right, find something positive in this, find something positive. So
Miss
anyway,
Martell graduating,
right. Was that a positive? Oh, that hurt a little,
yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, like, every day there's something good we can look for.
Well, Matthew, it's funny because I've done that a couple of times. I've been preaching the Gospel of Matthew, and yesterday was Matthew 24, which is sort of confusing. Jesus, I think, is probably talking about two different events, and the disciples, not surprisingly, kind of get them mixed together. And there are people who do that, and I'm not here to make a definitive statement, but I've learned, Ben, how to read the text and at least find something that we can all agree on. Some might call that scapegoating. Some might call that being smart and keeping your job. But in that text, he tells them, and I think we miss it because people do get panicked. I know we had a grandmother, the one that we shared, that just would not read Revelation. And there are probably out there people listening going, I just don't read Revelation. It's scary. It's confusing. Matthew 24 is similar, but Jesus says in there a couple of positive things that don't panic. He tells them that. Now, I read 24 and I panic and I go, oh, I don't understand this. What's going on? He says, don't be panicked. In certain translations, don't be panicked. Then he says the good news is going to go throughout all the world. That's a positive. And then he says, if you endure to the end, you'll be saved. And I think today, thanks to the Apostle Paul and Philippians, we're getting some ways to endure. And this is Mental Health Awareness Month, May, as we get ready to wrap that up. Whether you buy into Philippians 4 or anything of the Bible, I think we've gotten some good things today to kind of help us endure whatever may be going on, whatever the circumstance.
And I would say, as a counselor and having been around counseling and classes and things, both secular nature and religious, I think these three concepts apply either way. If I hadn't mentioned the text of the Bible, then I think people go, yeah, we should find cause to celebrate. We should find things to be thankful for. Gratitude is a major part of mental health, and, trying to see the positive and look for the positive, a major part of it. So even if we didn't mention Philippians 4, I think that those three concepts are powerful. And when you start going, how do I learn to be content in whatever situation I am? How do I learn? And another word for that kind of is peace. And I found it interesting. We were talking about things you control in Bible class last night, and this came up, and I mentioned 2 times it talks about peace in that passage that we just read. And then over in like the next page in my Bible, in Colossians chapter 3, he says, and let, in verse 15 of Colossians 3, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in one body, and be thankful. He mentions Thanksgiving again, but he says, let the peace control, because we were talking about things we can't control. Well, let God's peace control. And peace doesn't seem like a thing that's controlling, but, when Jesus was on the water and it was, crashing around, he said, peace, be still, and peace controlled the situation. And so for us, I think it's important for us to recognize, if we will do those things we talked about, we're going to find more and more that peace controls our life.
All right, Will, I got an easy slam dunk one for you here.
All right.
Staying Alive, a disco dodgeball tournament for St. Jude. Yes, it's about that time again. Youth ministers, as you're getting ready to close out the summer, I know we're talking about starting, and you're like, don't even get me on the end. But a good way to wrap it up would be with us in Florence, Alabama, raising money for St. Jude. 4th annual. That's insane to think about. 4th year doing the dodgeball. We'd love for you to be with us. benandtravis.com/dodgeball. You can register, get all the rules. But the question of the day, Will, is which is more likely? Are we keeping the Megladon alive? Okay. We had a little extra from Lonnie Jones where he answered, I think it's in our Facebook group or on our Patreon, where he answered that he thought, but based on scripture, I can't really argue with that that the Ark of the Covenant is gone. It is not around anymore. And so he went with the Megladon being alive and well, moves on in the tournament. Is it more likely that I think this is going to be easy. I really do. Is there a Megladon out there alive and well? Are there lizard people? There is a group of people out there who believe that anyone with authority or power, and I hope I'm not breaking trust with Romans 13 here, but they believe that anyone with power, political power, I don't know if we call them shapeshifters or what, are lizard people. Now, I would say the greatest argument for this, and I apologize if he's listening in right now, because is the Facebook guy. Mark Zuckerberg kind of looks like he could be a lizard person. But no, some of the people that they think might be, any of the presidents, any of those. So, Will, I'll let you take first shot.
I mean, I think some of them are as intelligent as some of the lizards I've seen, around the world. But I think I'm still, I think I'm still going to go with the Megladon, because I still don't know that we really landed on the moon, but maybe the Megladon's still there, because I'm still, and the shapeshifters, I'm never going to get another job in my life. But I mean, it's like, who knows? Because I don't believe our country's batting 1,000. Like, do you really believe that everything coming out of the news or DC is true?
Well, I got an easy answer for that. Absolutely not.
Like, no chance.
Have you said, is it more likely there's a Megladon or that they've always told us the truth?
I mean,
here's the easiest answer ever.
Here's my thought. A Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball gets a hit 3 out of every 10 at bats.
Yeah.
Like, our political leaders are not Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So like, they got to be batting 100.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, 1 out of every 10 things they say is a truth. Who knows what's out there?
That's
Who knows?
True. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I mean, I'm obviously gonna go Megladon here, but I do think about Satan was referred to as a reptile. So
I knew Bible man over there. He got it. Let's go.
So on some level, there's some work of the devil going on in some of those places, in those high places. But I think there's more likely a chance that there is a Megladon, Dan, that they're shapeshifters. However, Lonnie would have probably knocked out Megladon a long time before we got to it, because he did say we have a lot of listening equipment. And I didn't think about that. A lot of listening equipment in the ocean. We can hear things a long way off, a little bit more so than we can space or some of the other things. So he would have probably knocked Megladon out early.
Speaking of people I distrust more than the government.
Other things.
So Lonnie is saying trust the science is what I'm hearing.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Y'all know Lonnie's going to, if he popped up behind me and put me to sleep right now, no one would be shocked. But we do appreciate Lonnie jumping on with Ben last week. Obviously, it's always great to see the one, the only Will Mahan future. I hope you guys are ready to play man to man. Y'all been double teaming for a while. Man to man changes things. Of course, we were kind of zealous. We went from 0 to 2, and even had a choice. Most people when they go 0 to 2, they don't have a choice. And we were like, no, bring it on. We can handle this. We were so ignorant, but it's great. We love it. Just like we love all those that listen to this show. Ben and Will, thank you for being with us, man.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great week. Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.